What did she whisper before she died? Can you imagine the weight of carrying a phrase spoken with her last breath? A phrase so fraught with secrecy that it not only destroys those who hear it, but forever changes their perception of what was. Experienced? Imagine yourself there on the cold, blood-stained floor, her breath fading away, and in the absolute silence, that whisper fragile, almost inaudible, but charged with a truth so profound it cuts like a knife. What she said to me with her last breath destroyed what was left of me. Have you ever felt such anguish, a mystery that keeps you awake? Stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover now may surprise you and perhaps haunt your mind. It's not just another crime. It's a criminal psychology puzzle where each piece carries pain, fear, and a pulse of secrets buried in the shadows of silence. That whisper, that final sentence, wasn't just a cry for help, it was a warning. A weight no one could carry, a secret that remains alive even after death. And this is no ordinary story. It's a story where the truth bleeds and the past insists on revealing itself in fragments. Have you ever experienced something you couldn't forget? Something that returns with every silence of the night, without explanation? The woman is lying on the ground. The blood flows slowly, staining the floor with marks that will never be erased. He is on his knees, eyes sunken, his face marked by a conflict that no judgment can measure. And then, the whisper, a sentence that echoes in the void and carries the weight of a silent confession. You won't hear a clear narrative, because criminal psychology doesn't like easy answers. It reveals the confusion, the imbalance, the clash of emotions and secrets that overflow between the lines. The sentence she whispered before dying is the beginning of an investigation that exposes not only a killer, but a labyrinth of mysteries and hidden truths. Over the years, many cases have carried this same aura, a final word, a secret spoken, under the shadow of death, that changed everything. Not only the fate of the accused, but the understanding of the crime itself. What does a killer's mind reveal in the final moment? What desperate secrets can be unearthed in a final whisper? And most importantly, what cannot be revealed but still haunts? There are no easy answers, but there are stories that stir our own deepest doubts and fears. You'll wonder, who is this man who heard the whisper? What truth does he hide? What remains entwined in that short, powerful, and pain-filled sentence? Criminal psychology shows that a convicted man's final words carry layers: remorse, denial, fear, anger, or even a veiled threat. Her sentence wasn't a mere whisper, it was a key. An open door to a secret so dark it extends beyond the crime scene, into territories few dare explore. Don't expect clear explanations, because in this case, as in so many others within the realm of royal mysteries, silence speaks louder. The phrase uttered with her dying breath remains an enigma, a fragment of truth that unsettles investigators, family members, and all who have tried to understand what happens in the final moments before execution. What she whispered is not just her secret. It's a curse that extends to anyone who dares to listen. So, are you ready to discover what no one has ever forgotten? What was hidden between those whispered words? What lies behind this final act, which blends pain, mystery, and an uncomfortable truth? What you'll see and hear next may shake your view of justice, remorse, and revenge. Stay with me, because the path is tortuous, and what lies ahead is not for those seeking comfort. But before we continue, let this question resonate. How far can a secret haunt, even after death? What would you do if you knew that a simple sentence had the power to destroy not only a life, but everything you know? The answer is right there, about to be revealed. The night was heavy, as if the air had swallowed the last breath of hope that still lingered in that house. A dinner that seemed banal to those observing from the outside, but to those inside, carried an invisible, almost palpable weight. The dishes were there, arranged on the table, but the food seemed tasteless. The silence between them was a kind of invisible bridge connecting unspoken pain, stifled secrets, and a tension ready to explode. Have you ever felt the weight of a silence that weighs more than any scream? A moment when time stands still and someone's gaze says what their mouth insists on keeping silent. She sat there, sitting in that chair as if she already sensed that this would be her last night in that world. Her face was pale, her eyes weary, as if she were waging an invisible battle against something consuming her from within. Who was she? After all, the woman whose devastating whisper would echo forever in the memories of those present. He wasn't just a victim. He was someone harboring a secret beyond words. The house, with its worn walls and long shadows, seemed to breathe. Silent agony, as if absorbing every moment of fear and despair from that last encounter. The gesture he made that night was simple, almost imperceptible to an inattentive observer, but charged with meaning. An averted glance, a tense movement of the hand, a held sigh. Every small detail was a piece of this dark puzzle, a disguised warning that only those who know how to listen carefully can grasp. Criminal psychology shows us that what often precedes a crime is not a grand act, but a series of small signs. Whispers from the unconscious that reveal the mental transformation that occurs at the decisive moment. The decisions made that night were not merely impulsive. They were the result of a long internal journey, marked by deep conflicts, fear, and above all, a hidden truth that insisted on emerging. Have you ever wondered how a human mind can transform so quickly, from love to hate, from protection to destruction? It's at this threshold that the mystery begins to deepen, and the narrative gains layers that go far beyond the obvious. In that house that night, reality seemed distorted, like a film where the backstory is darker than the plot itself. The impact of that last night was not only on the body, but also on the soul of those who survived to tell the tale, on the memories that bear indelible marks, and on the revelations that only emerge when one dares to gaze into the abyss. The journey that began with a seemingly ordinary dinner ends in cruel silence, where her final words will be the key to unraveling not only the crime, but also the shadows that preceded it. What was behind that look? What thoughts were running through her head as the clock ticked against destiny? Psychology reminds us that the human mind is a labyrinth where emotions, traumas, and delusions intertwine, and understanding this complexity is essential to deciphering what really happened on that fateful night. The weight of this secret she carried wasn't just hers. It was an invisible prison that imprisoned them both, tying the fate of two lives to a tenuous thread that snapped in that final moment. Every gesture, every silence that night was a clue left behind, a fragment of a truth that could only be revealed in the darkest moment. The internal transformation that led to the crime was a cruel and silent process, often invisible to the world, but brutal for those who lived every minute of that journey. His mindset that night was no longer the same as it had been days before. Something had changed, something that only desperation could explain, and she, in that chair, knew it. She felt the storm approaching, the inevitable collapse that would arrive with the explosion of a truth no one wanted to face. The heavy atmosphere, the house that seemed to breathe agony, were reflections of this process of internal transformation, a harbinger of what was to come, of the darkness that engulfed everything, because understanding that night is fundamental to understanding what she whispered with her dying breath. That phrase wasn't born of chance, nor mere coincidence. It was the culmination of a sequence of events, emotions, and decisions that converged on that moment. The revelations that emerged from unraveling the behind-the-scenes story of that night not only reveal the fragility of the human mind under extreme pressure, but also expose the hidden complexities within any true crime, the psychological impact, the pain that doesn't fade, the invisible scars that leave a lasting mark. The truth hidden behind the silence of that house is more than a simple crime. It's a dive into the psyche of two human beings in conflict, a clash between light and shadow, trust and betrayal, love, and despair. Along this journey, you'll see that every word, every look, every gesture has a profound meaning, and that the essence of what she said before she died is linked to all of this, a key to understanding not only what happened, but why. Got the layers of this story are so many that the surface never reveals its entirety. The whisper that changed everything is a fragment, a glimpse of a reality many have tried to forget, but which insists on returning, like a shadow that refuses to disappear. And it is in this moment, on the fine line between revelation and mystery, that we begin to understand the true weight of that secret. What you are about to discover is not comfortable. It is raw, it is dense, it is a mirror of human complexity when pushed to its limit. This is the real impact of criminal psychology applied to the darkest cases, where the mind not only loses itself, but also tries to justify itself in the face of the abyss. The crime that marked that night was merely the external reflection of a much larger internal battle, a battle that culminated in that final whisper, filled with fear and despair, a silent confession that destroyed everything that could still be saved. As we progress through this investigation, we'll follow what happens when silence speaks louder than any words, and when a secret has the power to haunt not only the present, but the future. What she whispered before her death wasn't just a phrase. It was a portal to a truth few dare face, a journey through the human mind at its most fragile and most dangerous. And even now, after so many years, that house still bears the scars of that night. The walls seem to whisper forgotten stories, echoes of a past that refuses to be left behind. The agony of that place is not just physical, it is emotional, spiritual. A constant reminder that sometimes what lurks in the shadows is more powerful than the light that tries to dispel it. Every detail of that night will be crucial to understanding the outcome that shook everything. And it is this connection, this deep immersion in what seemed like a simple dinner, but which was the last page of a book full of dark chapters, that will reveal what no one imagined. The decisions that changed the course of two lives, the gestures that seemed banal but carried the weight of transformation, pain, and imminent destruction. Now, the narrative continues, ready to unveil the next steps in this story of secrets, fear, and an unquenchable whisper. The human mind, faced with its limits, reveals its darkest and most unpredictable facets, and it is in this terrain that we will continue our journey. What appears to be silence is, in fact, a stifled scream, and it is to this scream that we will listen carefully. His profile isn't what you picture when you think of a killer. He wasn't a stranger, not a figure who appeared out of nowhere to take a life and disappear into the darkness of the night. He was someone close, intimate, a constant presence in her daily life, a voice that sometimes sounded like comfort and at others like a suffocating shadow. Perhaps even passionate, in a distorted and painful form of love, where the desire for possession surpasses all limits of reason. This is one of the most disturbing facets of criminal psychology. How love, a feeling that should protect and strengthen, can transform into an instrument of control, obsession, and ultimately, destruction. What sets this type of killer apart from others is not just the brutal act, but the mindset that precedes it. It's not a momentary impulse, nor a fit of uncontrolled rage. It's a slow buildup, made up of small decisions, internal justifications, and an emotional journey marked by profound imbalances. It's love that becomes a prison, affection that becomes a threat, an obsession that eliminates any possibility of freedom for the other person. The impact of this on the victim is devastating, but for the attacker, it's a hidden truth that justifies every act, even the cruelest. Have you ever wondered what goes through the mind of someone who kills out of emotion? What cruelty is this? That stems from the desire to keep someone close at any cost. Criminal psychologists study this mental transformation, this descent into delirium where the line between love and hate is completely blurred. It's a process where identity fragments, and the perpetrator sees themselves as a victim of their own emotions, a victim who uses violence to protect themselves. It's an internal narrative full of contradictions, where absolute control is the only way to feel safe, even if it means taking the life of the person they claim to love. He wasn't an unknown monster. He was a distorted reflection of his life, a man who underwent profound changes, whose behavior was shaped by a dangerous obsession. Psychology reveals that these criminals exhibit obsessive-compulsive behavior patterns, difficulty dealing with rejection, and a distorted perception of emotional reality. For them, relationships aren't exchanges, but silent domination, a constant battle to maintain power under any circumstances. This creates a vicious cycle where violence gradually becomes a way out, or rather a prison from which they cannot escape. Delusion begins to take over, and decisions that seemed logical to him are actually symptoms of a mental breakdown. The journey of mental transformation that led to the crime is not an isolated event, but a gradual process that can last months, even years, until the tension reaches a breaking point. The perpetrator's mind creates justifications for his actions, deconstructs the victim's perception, and becomes trapped in a labyrinth of paranoia and fear. It is in this state that the victim's last breath becomes a whisper charged with truth and despair, because she saw the abyss forming and tried to warn, but no one listened. This type of crime, motivated by such deep and distorted feelings, reveals a truth many prefer to ignore. Love can be as lethal a weapon as any other. In the trajectory of such a killer, control is not only over the victim, but over reality itself. And the line between protection and abuse becomes too thin to be recognized until it's too late. The pain, the emotional isolation, the internal transformation, all of this converges into a fateful moment, where her final sentence, loaded with meaning, exposes the abyss no one wanted to see. The psychological profile of this type of killer is complex and multifaceted. They blend charm and threat, complicity and violence, creating a scenario in which the victim is often unable to break the cycle. Emotional manipulation is a silent weapon that traps and confuses, making the final crime seem, to the attacker, like a desperate solution to a problem they themselves created. It's a cruel paradox. Killing for love is at once the greatest display of pain and the most brutal manifestation of control. Understanding this complexity is crucial to unraveling what happened that night, because the crime was not an isolated act, but the culmination of a series of internal transformations, choices, and silent confrontations. His psychological journey reveals how the human mind can become lost in itself, creating parallel realities, where love is confused with prison and obsession becomes a death sentence. Every gesture of that last night, every look, and every silence carry the weight of this profile, and it is through it that we begin to see the true impact of what she whispered before her death. But that's not all. As we peer behind the scenes, into the twisted intricacies of the mind and heart, we realize there's an even deeper layer of mystery. Because what lies hidden in this crime is not just an act of violence, but a tangle of hidden truths that defy comprehension. The revelations that emerge not only explain what happened, but also question everything we thought we knew about justice, guilt, and redemption. Because understanding his profile is only the beginning. What really interests us is what he did. That last night, how obsession turned into decision, and what she whispered in that moment that changed everything forever. The mind behind the crime is a labyrinth, and the decisions he made reflect an internal struggle. A battle between the desire to love and the need to control, a battle that ended in tragedy. The transformation that led to that final moment reveals much about how the human mind reacts under extreme pressure, and how the psychological impact can manifest in unexpected and devastating ways. What seemed like a simple dinner, a routine encounter, was the stage for a sequence of choices that culminated in a tragic end. The layers of manipulation, pain, and illusion that intertwine in this profile show that nothing is black and white, that the line between victim and perpetrator can blur, and that her whisper is an echo of all of this, a sentence that carries weight and meaning far beyond what words can express. This delve into the psychological profile leads us to question not only the crime, but human nature itself. How can love become so destructive? What are the limits of the mind when confronted with fear, insecurity, and loss? These questions don't have simple answers, but they are essential to understanding the complexity of this case and revealing what truly lies behind the whisper no one has forgotten. The journey we are embarking on is not easy, but it is necessary. Because only by facing these hidden truths, these emotional wounds, and the life-changing decisions head-on can we begin to understand what happened that night. The impact of this crime goes beyond the scene, reaching the psychological, emotional, and social realms, a web of intertwining factors that reveal the true face of the tragedy. The mind that killed for love is a mystery within a mystery, an enigma that challenges us to look within ourselves, at our own emotions and limits. And it is this complex terrain that we will continue to explore, unraveling the hidden layers, the silent revelations, and the decisions that culminated in her last breath, that whisper that changed everything forever. As we delve deeper into this universe where love and violence intertwine, it's natural that seemingly unanswerable questions arise, fragments of a truth so obscure it defies understanding. It's in this space of doubt, of unraveled mysteries, that our search for meaning intensifies. And it's precisely this journey, made up of unsettling discoveries and revelations that stir the mind and heart, that motivates me to continue bringing you stories like this. Stories that not only expose crimes, but invite us to reflect on the complexity of the human soul, on the shadows we all carry even without knowing it. If you feel the same need to understand what hides behind the silence, the unspoken words, and the whispers that echo in the darkness, know that this is the right place for that immersion. Here, we don't seek easy answers or comfortable endings. We seek the raw truth, the real impact of these stories that go beyond crime and delve into the essence of human transformation. And to continue this journey with you, it's essential that this channel grows and reaches more people who, like you, want to look at the dark side of the mind with courage and empathy. When you subscribe, you're helping keep this conversation alive, this relentless search for what's hidden, for what they don't want us to know. You're helping these stories gain a voice and ensuring that the message of warning and reflection reaches more people. More than just numbers, each subscription represents a commitment to continue unraveling real mysteries, to revealing behind-the-scenes details few know about, to revealing the complexity of life-changing decisions. Your presence here transforms the narrative, keeping it alive, vibrant, and true. Furthermore, subscribing is a subtle invitation to never lose the thread. Because stories like this are made of layers, of pieces that slowly fit together and require constant attention. They're like a puzzle that slowly comes together, revealing, with each new video, a part of the hidden truth that unsettles us all. If you want to follow this construction, this unfolding, this spiral of revelations that promises to shake not only your mind, but also your way of seeing the world, subscribing here is essential. It's not just about watching. It's about being part of a community that values attentive observation, that doesn't shy away from discomfort, that understands that only through true immersion can meaning be found. Together, we can delve deeper, discover invisible connections, and open doors that often prefer to remain closed. It's this kind of impact I wish for you, and it's only possible when we walk side by side in this search for the unknown. So, if this story has already touched you, if your curiosity is piqued, and the mystery still lurks in your mind, consider subscribing. Because, believe me, what comes next will challenge your assumptions even further. Revelations beyond imagination, secrets buried deep beneath layers that only persistence can bring to light. It's a journey that doesn't end here, and your company makes all the difference in its continuation. Now, with this commitment made, we can go even deeper. He paced the house like someone trapped in a cycle he couldn't break. Tension hung in the air, silent but palpable, like a shadow slowly growing, until it became impossible to ignore. Witnesses who were nearby in the days before the crime spoke of a phrase he repeated, almost like a mantra, a warning no one could decipher in time. "If you knew what I saw, you wouldn't judge me." That phrase seemed to carry such weight that even those who heard it felt the ground slip beneath their feet. But what had he seen? What had he witnessed that changed everything? Why had no one understood until now? This enigma became a key, the final missing piece to understanding the transformation that culminated in the tragedy. The phrase wasn't just a desperate defense, nor a simple lament. It was a half-open door to a secret that escaped the surface, an invitation to look behind the scenes, to what lies hidden in a mind disturbed by delusions and obsessions. When the truth begins to reveal itself, each word takes on new weight, each gesture a hidden reason. The journey he experienced before that moment is a complex web of revelations, a psychological construction that shatters old certainties and defies any simplistic logic. Have you ever considered how decisions that seem small, almost insignificant, can be the tipping point between sanity and the abyss? His mindset was transforming silently, fueled by visions few can comprehend, by distorted interpretations of what he saw and experienced. The phrase he repeated was not just a warning, but a veiled confession, a way of trying to justify a journey no one wanted to take, but which he believed was inevitable. Criminal psychology shows us that, in these moments, the human mind can enter a state where perception of reality becomes scrambled, and what seems true to one is a mystery to everyone else. The impact of this secret wasn't just his. It was a shadow that loomed over her, over the house, over everything around her. The phrase, spoken in a moment of fragility and delirium, reflects the internal struggle between the desire to be understood and the fear of condemnation. He knew that what he carried could destroy not only himself, but everything around him. That's why he kept repeating that phrase like a mantra to himself, a last-ditch attempt to build a bridge to anyone who might hear and understand. But no one was prepared for what she hid. Delving deeper into this narrative, we realize that the crime was not merely an isolated act, but the culmination of a sequence of decisions fraught with pain, fear, and internal transformation. Every moment leading up to that fateful night is marked by a psychological construct that includes not only obsession and delirium, but also a hidden truth that defied understanding even by those closest to the story. It is this truth, hidden among unspoken words and heavy silences, that makes the story even more complex and disturbing. You begin to realize that this phrase, "If you knew what I saw, you wouldn't judge me," is more than a mere plea. It's a silent cry that echoes between the lines of that man's mind, an expression of the weight he carried, and that was the driving force behind the tragedy that followed. And at the same time, it's an invitation to delve into the background of that troubled mind, into the psychological layers that explain, or attempt to explain, the decisions made that night. It's an invitation to understand the impact of fear, paranoia, and pain in shaping a mindset that ultimately destroyed everything. It's fascinating and frightening to think that often what a criminal says before committing the final act can be the key to understanding not only the crime itself, but also the mental trajectory that led him there. This fragment of a sentence, repeated like a desperate whisper, reveals an internal battle few can see, a struggle between what he saw, what he felt, and what the world wanted him to be. This battle, marked by delusions and obsessions, is what makes criminal psychology so essential to deciphering cases like these, where the simple gesture of a sentence can hide an entire story. Understanding this sentence is crucial to revealing what really happened that last night. It's necessary to unravel what he saw, what haunted him, what became an unbearable weight on his mind and heart. This journey into the hidden truth will lead us to discover how decisions made by someone in a state of mental transformation can become so irreversible, and the impact of this truth on everyone involved. You'll realize that this isn't just a crime, but a complex web of emotions, lies, and revelations that defy comprehension. Stay with me until the end, because what follows will shed light on the darkest corners of this troubled mind, and you will understand why that phrase was not just a whisper before the fall, but the harbinger of a sequence of events that forever changed everyone's destiny. The scene that followed had no screams, no audience. There was only a heavy silence, a silence that carries more than the absence of sound. It carries the weight of overflowing pain and loneliness that becomes palpable in the air. There lay a fallen body, motionless yet still seemingly carrying a gaze that, even in its stillness, begged for answers, for meaning to what was happening. It wasn't just a victim. It was a presence that wouldn't fade, that persisted in the space between life and death, like a final plea for justice or understanding. This meticulously staged scene felt like a farewell, but not to what one might imagine. It was a silent ritual, a farewell, not to her, but to something much deeper that only he knew. The crime at its core was not merely an act of physical violence. It was the embodiment of a growing pain, an internal transformation that culminated that night. Every detail of that moment carries the weight of a history marked by conflicts, decisions, and hidden revelations. The execution, cold and precise, was not just an end, but an extension of what had long been building in his mind. The pain he felt, the fear he carried, all of it translated into that final gesture. And the most disturbing thing is that what he truly wanted to say goodbye to wasn't her. It was a part of himself, a truth that consumed him. What happens when pain becomes so intense that it finds no other path than destruction? This is a question that goes beyond the simple understanding of a crime, entering a dimension where human psychology reveals itself in its rawest and most complex form. His mind was at a breaking point where conflicting emotions, love, hate, fear, obsession were so intertwined that the only way out seemed to be the execution of the one who, for him, represented both salvation and condemnation. This is the disturbing duality that marks many crimes of passion, where the line between victim and perpetrator becomes blurred, and the emotional impact transforms each act into a farewell ritual that goes beyond the physical. There was no audience. For that crime, only the complicit silence of the walls and the shadow stretching across the floor. The execution was an isolated moment, charged with personal meaning, a gesture that expressed an internal struggle far deeper than any witness could understand. The pain that brought him to that point was invisible to others, but explosive to him. It was a pain that carried secrets, hidden truths, and a shifting mindset, where reality molded itself to his own distorted interpretations. It is in this scenario that the crime unfolds, not as a simple isolated act, but as the result of a sequence of choices, of decisions made amidst an emotional storm. The execution was, in fact, a continuation of a journey that had been constructed in silence, between the lines, behind the scenes of a relationship marked by control, obsession, and a desperate search for meaning. The farewell scene reveals that what he left behind was not just a body, but an entire story, a story that needed to be told, understood, and above all, unraveled. You begin to understand that the impact of this crime goes far beyond the physical. It reverberates in the minds, hearts, and souls of everyone involved in this plot. Every gesture, every look, every silence that night carries the weight of a hidden truth, a revelation that challenges the common perception of love, pain, and justice. And it is this complexity that makes criminal psychology so essential to deciphering what really happened, to understanding how pain transforms into execution, and how the decisions made in that moment echo forever. The execution, though silent, was a suppressed scream that exposes not only the physical violence but also the emotional and psychological collapse that preceded the act. It is a manifestation of internal conflict, despair, and the search for control amidst mental chaos. The pain he felt was so profound that it could only be expressed through an extreme act, an act that closed a cycle of suffering and despair that seemed to have no other way out. What this scene teaches us is that crime is not just an isolated act, but an expression of human complexity, of the decisions that shape destinies and the hidden truths that remain in the shadows. The look that still begged for answers is a reminder that even in the silence of death, there are stories that need to be told, and that the impact of these stories extends far beyond the moment life is extinguished. Understanding this scene is crucial to unraveling what he truly tried to say goodbye to that night. The execution was more than an end. It was the culmination of an internal transformation, a manifestation of the mindset that had formed over time and culminated in that decisive moment. The psychological journey that led him there is full of layers, revelations, and choices that we need to explore to understand the true scale of this crime. When the police arrived, there was no escape. There was no struggle. There was no resistance. He stood there, motionless, as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time, as if he already knew what was coming. He sat down with an unsettling calm, ordered coffee, and let the silence fill the room. It was only then, in a barely audible whisper, that he said, "She told me everything before she died." The phrase, so simple, carried immense promise and weight. What exactly had been said? What secret had she confided in him in that final moment? What revelation could be so crucial, so devastating, that he felt the need to keep it as a last testament? This silent confession opened a window onto a journey of revelations few imagined possible. The interrogation that followed was not just a search for answers, but a delve into the inner workings of someone who knew his time was coming. He carried within him not only guilt, but a hidden truth that, until that moment, had seemed unattainable to those around him. The mental transformation that led him there was reflected in every word, every hesitation, every silence that filled the space between questions and answers. That moment marked the beginning of an intense search to understand the decisions he made, the layers of his mindset that were slowly revealed, like pieces of a psychological puzzle. It was as if he were sharing with the police, and by extension, with the world, a fragment of what he had experienced, what he had been able to endure, and what haunted him until the end. The impact of that silence and that confession was so profound that it transformed the interrogation into a minefield of emotions, doubts, and truths yet to be uncovered. Have you ever imagined what it's like to face imminent death, carrying a secret that could change everything? This pressure, this awareness of the end, alters the way someone expresses themselves, how they choose their words, and how they try, perhaps for the last time, to tell their truth. The interrogation became more than a police procedure. It became an exposure of the soul, a descent into the meanders of a collapsing mind, where each answer brought revelations that went far beyond what was expected. What he revealed was not just an ordinary confession, but a tangle of facts that defied the simple logic of a common crime. The sentence she told him before she died was not just a whisper of despair, but a fundamental piece in unraveling the behind-the-scenes story of that tragedy. It contained a hidden truth, a revelation that could transform the understanding of the entire story, exposing motivations, secrets, and choices no one had been able to see before. The interrogation revealed how his mind oscillated between regret, justification, and confusion. Each word seemed to carry the weight of an intense emotional journey, an internal battle between accepting guilt and protecting what remained of that truth. It was a profound transformation, where the impact of the decision that led to the crime manifested itself in a silent struggle for understanding, for redemption, or perhaps for survival itself in the face of imminent execution. The way he chose to share this last piece of information demonstrates the complex mindset of someone facing their own death. It wasn't just a factual account, but an unfolding of emotions, a mosaic of feelings that revealed the depth of his internal conflict. The revelation of that secret, in that instant, opened the door to further investigations, to a richer and more disturbing understanding of the nature of the crime and the perpetrator. This phase of the case is crucial for understanding the human dimension behind the acts, for realizing that, even in the face of imminent death, the human mind seeks to leave a legacy, a message that goes beyond words, laden with hidden meanings and layers of interpretation. It's an invitation to look not only at the crime itself, but at the psychological journey that preceded it, at the decisions that shaped an irrevocable destiny. Because understanding what was said in that final whisper is essential to revealing the real motives, the hidden truths, and the impact this revelation had on the entire investigation. It's a step beyond the obvious, a descent into the backstage of a mind marked by pain, transformation, and choices that echo far beyond the final moment. As we unravel the deep layers of the mind and pain that surround this story, I want to invite you to a moment of reflection, a space for you to connect not only with what you heard, but with what may still be hidden within you. Sometimes unspoken words, whispers that carry secrets, awaken in us an emotional memory difficult to forget, a pain that begs to be heard. If something in this story touched a nerve, an indignation, or a memory you carry, allow yourself to express it here in the comments. It can be a word, a phrase, anything that represents what you felt right now, a silent outburst, a suppressed cry, a reflection that needs to come out. It's not just about writing, but about creating an invisible network of belonging, where each expression strengthens the understanding that no one is alone on this journey. Often, what seems like a simple comment is actually a thread connecting stories, pain, and experiences. And it's this space we want to build here, a place where you can not only listen, but be heard, where your feelings have value and impact. Your participation not only helps give voice to these emotions, but also fuels the continuity of this work, which seeks to go beyond appearances and touch what truly matters. Sharing your reaction, your words, is a step toward transforming pain into something understandable and empathetic. An act of courage that helps strengthen a community that values empathy and truth. If this story has awakened something in you, whether it's indignation, sadness, fear, or even a desire to understand more deeply, leaving your mark, here is an invitation to continue this conversation that doesn't end in images or words, but lives in the connection between us all. So if you'd like, write here what this story evoked in you. It doesn't need to be elaborate, just truthful. This is a way to continue not only the video, but also this exchange, which is essential for these narratives to make sense and create the impact we desire. Your voice matters, and it's what keeps this space of discovery and transformation alive. Now, with this exchange open, we can delve even deeper into the complexity of that mind, the decisions that followed that last breath, and the revelations that are yet to come. The silence after that sentence resonated louder than any scream could. You know what they did to me. 4 words that, coldly recorded in the official report, carry a weight no document can fully express. Her final sentence is not just a statement. It is an enigmatic whisper that echoes in the darkest corners of this story, a secret hidden in an almost palpable tension. A clue that challenges the mind to comprehend the truth behind the mystery. And when it comes to secrets like these, it's impossible not to feel the impact of what was unsaid, of what remained suspended in the air, waiting to be unveiled. These words are a window onto a universe of possibilities, onto a hidden truth that seems to escape the common gaze. Who are these they she mentions? An invisible shadow that permeates the story, a presence that insinuates itself between the lines of investigation and defies rational understanding. This phrase provokes a series of questions that tangle in the mind, mixing pain, fear, and the feeling that there is something much greater than a simple crime. There's a plot behind it, a complex web of decisions, manipulations, and intentions that must be brought to light. By observing this statement, one realizes that the journey doesn't end with the violent act itself. This final sentence is the gateway to a series of behind-the-scenes scenes, where the impact of what was experienced goes beyond the physical and enters the psychological, emotional, and social realm. The transformation this experience wrought in her, the weight of what was done, the mentality shattered by pain, all of this intertwines to form a narrative that defies simple logic and demands a close look at the subtleties that often go unnoticed. You begin to realize that this phrase isn't just a victim message, but an invitation to delve deeper, to seek what's hidden between the lines, in decisions made away from the public eye. The hidden truth may be camouflaged in small details, in seemingly banal actions, but which, together, form a disturbing picture of manipulation and pain. Criminal psychology, at this point, becomes an indispensable tool for understanding how the human mind reacts and adapts to these extreme situations, revealing patterns that aren't always evident at first glance. This whispered secret is what keeps the investigation burning, what sparks curiosity and unease. It forces us to rethink everything we've seen so far, to question official versions, to open space for new hypotheses and twists. After all, when a final sentence carries such weight, we can't simply ignore it. It challenges us to look beyond the obvious, to explore the depths of human emotions, and to understand the impact such secrets have not only on the victims, but on the entire chain of events surrounding the crime. Each word of this final sentence reverberates like an echo in the mind, transforming how we perceive the story. It changes the narrative's course, adding a layer of mystery that requires patience and attention to unravel. It's an invitation to follow a complex journey where decisions made in the past unfold into revelations that can shake foundations and reconfigure our understanding. Exploring what this phrase might mean, what the possible interpretations are, and what lies behind this secret she confided with her dying breath. We'll investigate the clues that were hidden, analyze the behind-the-scenes story of this confession, and understand the real impact this revelation had on the psychology of those involved. The investigation, which seemed poised to close the case, opened a door no one expected. A new path, a shadow within the shadow, a twist that transformed everything into something even darker and more complex. They discovered she was hiding something so profound, so disturbing, that it completely changed the narrative they had constructed so far. He, who seemed to bear the full weight of the crime, was not the only one with blood on his hands. The hidden truth she had concealed now presented itself as a silent accusation, a whisper laden not with forgiveness, but with a revelation that eroded the foundations of the story. This new chapter in the investigation revealed a web of decisions, manipulations, and lies that went beyond a simple understanding of what had happened that last night. What appeared to be an isolated crime turned out to be a much more intricate plot, where each piece of the puzzle pointed to a crime within the crime. The transformation of this narrative profoundly impacted the mindset of everyone involved, including the investigators, who came to understand they were facing something much larger, a shadow play, where each revelation raised more questions than answers. Her whisper, previously seen as a plea for help or a cry of pain, took on a new dimension. It was a veiled accusation, a final act of resistance against a past she could no longer bear. Alone, this final sentence was not just a confession, but a kind of silent testimony that revealed the existence of other culprits, others involved, and other hidden truths that needed to be brought to light. The pain she felt, the impact of these revelations, expanded the scope of the crime, showing how human complexity can manifest itself in ways that go far beyond What is expected that the journey to unravel this crime within a crime involved a deep analysis of the behind-the-scenes events, where the decisions made by each character began to be scrutinized in a new light. The attitudes, the silences, the secrets, everything took on a new weight, an urgency that demanded even more thorough investigation. It was as if the story had unfolded in layers, each revealing a different facet of the hidden truth, an emotional and psychological dimension that defies superficial understanding. You begin to understand that, in this type of case, the truth is neither linear nor simple. It's an intricate web of relationships, feelings, fears, and manipulations that need to be unraveled with patience and sensitivity. The twist brought a complexity that requires not only technical knowledge, but also deep empathy to understand the motivations, internal conflicts, and emotional consequences of each decision. It is in this context that criminal psychology proves crucial, allowing a detailed analysis of the mindset that permeates this web of events. The impact of this discovery resonates not only in the investigation but throughout the narrative constructed. Thus far, it transforms the public's perception, which begins to see the case in a new, darker, and more disturbing light. The journey to unravel the crime within the crime is the immersion into the inner workings of the human soul, where the weight of pain and betrayal merges with the search for truth and justice. It's a silent battle between what was done and what needs to be revealed, because understanding this twist is essential to uncovering the darkest layers of this story. We'll delve into the decisions that led to these secrets, the consequences that resonate to this day, and the revelations that challenge superficial certainties. Stay with me until the end, because what follows will challenge your perception and open unexpected paths in this narrative of pain, mystery, and transformation. He was condemned. The sentence came as the final official chapter in a story that already seemed concluded, but which, at its core, carried a tension that had not yet dissipated. The execution was marked by a heavy silence, a moment that carried more than the simple formality of the end. In that final instant, as the life drained from his body, he uttered only one sentence. A short, cold sentence, charged with a chilling determination. Now she will be silent. These words echoed in the air, penetrating the cold walls of the execution chamber, leaving a trail of unease in the hearts of those who heard them. But what did he mean by that? Who was this she he claimed to silence? While death seemed to be the definitive conclusion to his story, his words also opened a door to a mystery that refuses to close. The echo of that voice, laden with veiled threat and ominous silence, still haunts not only those present, but also all who since then have tried to understand the true meaning of that final breath. It wasn't just a goodbye, it was a warning, an omen, a final breath laden with pain, hatred, and perhaps a silent promise that would endure through time. The execution, which should have represented the end of his journey, became a turning point for the investigation, for understanding the case, and for understanding the psychology that permeates the final act of someone who knows they are about to disappear forever. The mindset behind that sentence reveals a mind that has not yielded, that still struggles to control the narrative, even in the face of death itself. This psychological transformation, which manifests itself in the final moment, shows how decisions made up until the very end carry the weight of everything experienced, of pain, of secrets, of hidden truths that remain vivid in the memories of those left behind. The impact of this sentence goes far beyond the moment of execution. It reverberates behind the scenes of the investigation, in the researchers' silent conversations, in the doubts that arise with each new line of inquiry. It's a provocation that challenges the official truth, insinuating that there are still missing pieces, that the crime that seems concluded may hide other layers, other stories, other invisible actors. It's as if in that final breath, he left a password, a code, a key to unlocking something yet to be revealed. This final sentence also reflects the internal conflict that permeates many true stories of criminals. At the moment they find themselves between life and death, their minds often encounter a profound transformation, a redirection of the narrative they want to leave behind. Some seek redemption, others quiet revenge. And some, like him, seem determined to perpetuate the mystery, to maintain control. Even in the silence of death. You begin to understand that, in this type of case, every word uttered carries enormous weight, loaded with symbolism and hidden meaning. The phrase, "now she will shut up," is not just a final gesture of defiance, but a crucial piece in understanding his journey, his decisions, and the impact his final act had not only on the victim, but on the entire web of relationships and secrets surrounding this crime. It's a provocation that forces us to go beyond appearances and seek the revelations hidden in the shadows, between the lines, in the silence, because unraveling what this phrase truly means is essential to understanding the complexity of this case, to understanding how hidden truth can be transformed by words spoken in the shadows of the end. Let's analyze the consequences of this last statement, the behind-the-scenes details it reveals, and the emotional impact that still resonates among those who heard it. As we unravel these fragments, it's important to remember that every detail, every word, is a piece of this complex web we're building together. If this search for hidden truths, for untold stories, resonates with you, it makes sense that you stick around, following every step of this journey. Because this channel is not just a space for storytelling, but a meeting place where mysteries are unraveled, where curiosity transforms into knowledge, and where the impact of revelations echoes far beyond the screen. By subscribing, you guarantee access to content that delves deep into the inner workings of the human mind, the decisions that shape destinies, and the secrets that only the truth can reveal. It's not just about watching, but about being part of a community that values investigation, understanding, and that almost insatiable desire to understand what lies hidden behind the shadows. The continuation of this journey also depends on your presence here, on your willingness to go further, to question and connect with these narratives that challenge the ordinary. Feel free to join this group of people who, like you, aren't satisfied with superficial answers. Here, each video is a piece that fits into a larger puzzle, and your submission is the bridge that keeps this cycle of discovery alive. What follows is a sequence of revelations that will delve even deeper into the story, bringing to light truths few have dared to face. Now, let's continue. Because this story still holds secrets that need to be explored, and it is precisely in this next stage that we will delve into the transformation of the mind that preceded the final silence. Even with the official verdict, with the weight of justice that seemed to have been served, the case never died. Not in the dusty archives, nor in the pages marked by bureaucracy. It lived on, pulsing in the shadows, between the lines of investigations that remained unfinished, in the whispered conversations of those close to the tragedy. Documents disappeared, files were misplaced, or simply vanished as if carrying secrets that should have remained hidden. People involved in the case were no longer seen, disappeared without explanation, as if swallowed by an invisible force, protecting something much greater than a simple crime. Her whisper, that enigmatic phrase, became more than a painful memory. It became a curse that haunts prison corridors, the silent bedrooms of family members, the restless minds of investigators unable to leave behind what they heard. It's as if that voice, though erased by time, has taken on a life of its own, haunting all who try to unravel the truth. Some on sleepless nights or in disturbing dreams swear they hear the echo of that phrase, as if the past refuses to be forgotten, as if the pain remains latent, fueling a mystery that insists on remaining open. The case's continued presence in the collective imagination reveals a transformation that goes beyond the crime itself. It reveals how the decisions made on that fateful day triggered a chain of events that transcend the legal sphere, entering the realm of emotions, beliefs, and unspoken stories. The mindsates of those involved, victims and perpetrators, families, and the justice system are transformed by this hidden truth that stubbornly resists silence. The impact of this situation is profound, a reflection of a reality that refuses to be confined by a verdict or a sentence. The journey to understand what really happened doesn't end with the closing of the case or the execution of the sentence. It continues with parallel investigations, scattered accounts, and theories circulating among experts and onlookers. Each new discovery, each revelation, is a step closer to the truth, but also an invitation to delve deeper into the behind the scenes of this story that refuses to be forgotten. It's as if her whisper has become an invisible thread connecting past and present, mystery and reality, pain and the search for justice. This phenomenon of disappearing documents and people is no coincidence, but part of the mysteries surrounding complex cases where hidden interests often attempt to control the narrative and keep certain truths from the public eye. It is in this context that criminal psychology, combined with thorough investigation, seeks to understand not only the crime itself, but also the impact of the decisions that shape the case over time, the consequences that echo far beyond the courtroom. The presence of this whisper, like a kind of curse that accompanies the case, highlights how true crime stories are made not only of facts, but of emotions, memories, and secrets that intertwine and perpetuate each other. The mystery she left behind is not limited to a single sentence, but expands into a universe of questions, revelations, and reflections that defy common understanding. Because understanding why this case never died is crucial to grasping the true scale of what's at stake. We'll explore the behind the scenes of these mysterious losses, the effects of this invisible curse on the people involved, and the impact all of this has on how we view justice and truth. If you've made it this far, you know this story isn't just another case. It's an invitation to look beyond, question what we're told, and seek the justice that often lies between the lines. If this message resonated with you, why not leave a comment saying, "I'm with you until the end"? I want to know who's truly willing to delve deeper into this journey with me, unraveling mysteries that defy time and official truth. And if this connection made sense, a like is just a simple way to show that this search for justice, for hidden revelations, is not a solitary one. It's a step toward strengthening this community that knows the truth isn't easily silenced, even when it's tried to hide. There's a video here that expands on this topic in a way you'll want to watch to understand even more about the behind the scenes of this case. Click there and stay with me there, because this story still has much to reveal, and only together can we reach where others have given up.